Hey, Mufasi here. This is a clip from our full podcast. Go check out the full episodes. You can watch them more on our YouTube or go listen to them on Spotify. All right, Kalir, we had a pretty decent week of wrestling, I would say, but we had some big AEW news to start, I would say. I would say it's pretty big. The biggest thing I would say that is big for me, in my opinion, is they announced that they're having 3 shows at the Hammerstein Ballroom. We did see rumors of this, but it is now confirmed.
Yeah, it's like, I think, isn't it like a Dynamite followed by a Collision?
Yeah, they're doing
like the day after?
They're doing a taping of Ring of Honor, they're doing a taping of Dynamite, and a taping of Collision, so...
Is that all in one night?
Not all in one night. I think they're back-to-back nights. So they're going to do Dynamite and Collision, and then the Ring of Honor one the night before. But... So they're doing 3 shows in the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is big. That's going to be a good venue. I'm sure it's going to sell out. It's going to be nice. But the other thing that goes into this is they announced a ton of small shows, which we've been saying, and many people have been saying. I'm not going to take all the credit for it. But they announced a lot of small shows, venues that are like 5K or less, just all across the U.S. for the winter. And I think that is going to help so much, and especially with the production revamp that they've been talking about, I think this is going to be huge. It's going to make the episodes feel bigger. Even though they're smaller, they're in smaller venues, it's going to feel big because you're going to have a full crowd at these venues.
Yeah, and there's not going to be all this fucking empty space. And these... They keep booking these, like, arenas that are way too big and not selling out. It's just not good for them, you know? So,
and that just leads into, you know, the fucking internet saying, oh my god, there's only 2 people there, there's 100 people there, and all this stuff. But like,
well, unfortunately, what's gonna happen is they're gonna, let's just say if they do really good, which I can bet that it's gonna like produce positive results for them.
Yeah.
Wrestling fans are always going to find a way to take the negative from this and be like, oh, they had to downgrade their venues.
Right.
Like it'll be the most killer show with 5,000 seat arena, and they're going to be like, yeah, but they couldn't sell out a fucking, the fucking Allstate arena or whatever.
Right.
And that's just how it's going to be always. And that's fine. That's fine. But, yeah, this is I think a net positive for AEW. I'm finally glad. I'm glad it's like something... I'm glad we're not like totally delusional anymore, Tony Khan. And that we're actually gonna, take a look-see.
The other thing, too, is like, they probably booked these bigger venues like way ahead of time. I'm sure there's a lot of planning that goes into that shit, so they probably booked them, and then they were like, well, fuck, we're stuck with them now, like, so they have to do it. They lower the setup, because even when you go and buy tickets, you can't buy seats for the whole arena. Usually it's
exactly
set up a certain amount of seats. But so they were probably locked into these bigger venues, and I think 2025 is going to be kind of their year of rebuilding, especially with the production revamp. They're going to Max.
So what does this production revamp entail? Do we know?
So they're getting all new production trucks, and one of their things, they had to book these bigger venues because all of their setup is too big. So like the tunnel, the lighting rigs, all of that. So they couldn't fit into some of these small venues because all of their equipment was too big. So that's part of it.
So they're like downsizing?
They're going to downsize the entrance, I'm assuming, for like the smaller venues. They're going to go kind of minimal, kind of like Raw and SmackDown did. Like they lowered the set. They made it smaller, more minimal. I'm hoping that in this downsize of the lighting rig, they, one of the biggest things is crowd lights. Like they don't turn on crowd lights. They don't turn on house lights very often at all. So it makes it feel that much more empty because it's all dark and shit.
Right. It looks just kind of like a liminal space.
Right, and when they were in the esports arena, you had those house lights, you had that small entrance, and that's why those shows for Collision felt so good, you know, because it was like a full small space.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is they are prepping also bigger things like more cameras, and I guess they're going to be able to cut between way more cameras too, because they're prepping for All In Texas, and that's going to be a massive show for them because that's at Globe Life Field, so that's a fucking baseball stadium, you know, so that's a massive space. So they're revamping their whole production crew and trucks and lineup and everything to like prep for these shows.
Again, I think it's going to be a net positive for them. I didn't know about all that downsizing stuff, so that's really cool. I appreciate their willingness to like realize when, you know, stuff stops working and figuring out like how to change it.
Now we need that for the booking too, but we'll, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, one thing at a time. You know,
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day. I will say Full Gear, as this happens with every AEW pay-per-view, but Full Gear is shaping up to be really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, another thing, too, I picked up, is there some kind of, like, beef about them getting the Hammerstein between, like, them and GCW?
Apparently, because
I like read very little on it, and it sounds like there's like some.
What's the GCW guy's name?
Brett Lauderdale.
Yeah, so he I don't know, they like booked a show there, and they're like, oh my god, it's so big for us and all this stuff, and then I guess WWE was also looking at the Hammerstein, and then
Right.
AEW booked the Hammerstein, and Brett Lauderdale was all mad, and he's like, come on, we're like a small show, this is big for us, and you guys are downsizing, and you like took it, and it's like, ugh. So he's just mad that they're going in there. Like, I don't know.
Wrestling companies are always just gonna try to, you know, outdo each other. So I could imagine AEW probably caught wind of this and were like, we need to book it first because it would be better for us. I think it would equally, like, GCW is small, but I think like a venue like this would equally benefit both of them.
Right.
GCW does a lot of shows at Hammerstein, so it's not like a super unfamiliar thing.
Yeah.
It's just AEW, I guess, just got to it first. And then on the same side of that coin, I think I saw something about WWE trying to keep. They were like trying their best to keep someone from going to AEW, and I'm trying to remember, the name is lost on me, but but like my point being is that they're going to be proactive in trying to like secure things before the competition. That's like very normal. I can understand it from a perspective of like AEW has more money than GCW probably, so it's obviously easier than for them.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with the Hammerstein too is
welcome to Taco Bell. Will you be checking in with the app today?
it's so loud today.
Yeah, I'm picking up a mobile order for Shane.
A cheesy double beef, a mixed meal, a spicy potato sauce taco, a large baja, and nacho fries.
Yep.
You can pull forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too. I hope they didn't think I was like purposefully recording them.
Today we're gonna be doing a Taco Bell.
We're gonna do a Taco Bell. That's it. All right.
So
What's
I was
next
gonna
on the
say
docket?
the other thing about the Hammerstein is the fact that, you know, I mean, you can make the argument Ring of Honor is not at all what it used to be, but Ring of Honor used to do a lot of shows in the Hammerstein as well, so there is legacy there. So it's kind of big for Ring of Honor to be there. Again,
Yeah.
regardless of or not whether it's, you know, the same as it used to be. And the other thing is AEW, you know, they're doing this whole November to Remember thing. That's an ECW thing, and they do a lot of like old ECW shit. So there's legacy there as well, because ECW used to do a lot of their pay-per-views there. and especially, probably the most famous ECW One Night Stand and all that. That was at the Hammerstein. So, there's legacy with these shows, and I think that's big for AEW.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's big for no matter who books it,
Right. It's just a legendary, venue.
It's a great venue, yeah. That's it. That's all there is to it.
The other AEW news is, I briefly touched upon it, but AEW is confirmed to be on Max starting January 1st with AEW Fight for the Fallen. They are making their streaming debut before Raw goes to Netflix, which is crazy.
That is crazy, and they did it in, I feel like a quicker amount of time.
That was very fast, yeah.
Hopefully it proves to be, just as successful.
I guess it's estimated number-wise, it's going to double the numbers, projected. Because a lot of people have Max.
Just because more people
probably
have Max.
Yeah, it's probably one of the less popular streaming services, I would say. You have Netflix, you have Prime Video. I would say those are probably on top. Disney Plus, obviously, and then you have Max. I think that's number 4, at least in my eyes. And I imagine the numbers are pretty close to that.
Yeah, I'd really like to see their numbers go up. I'm really excited for them to be on Max. It's feeling like their catalog isn't going to be on Max just yet. Just based on the way that it's been promoted, it hasn't really advertised their past shit, but I guess we'll really find out once it's up there. It really just kind of sounds like old pay-per-views, if anything. I'd really like for old episodes of Dynamite to be watchable. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, I would too. I would absolutely go back and watch from the beginning because I never saw it. So,
dude, watch it from the beginning. That's a great that's wrestling since it's so new still. That's something I would watch from the beginning.
Yeah,
and just watch.
You go and you try and watch I'm gonna start from the Attitude Era, and it's so daunting because that's literally
and you're just oh, that's 20 years ago.
20 years ago, over 20 years
plus.
ago.
Yeah.
So it's oh shit, I'm not gonna be able to watch all that. But AEW, it's okay, it's 5 years old. It's gonna take a bit, but I could watch most of that.
Right. Yeah. I think it'll eventually, if it's not there now, it'll eventually make its way there. But I'm excited regardless for pay-per-views kind of going forward to be on there and all that good stuff.
2 more things for AEW I want to brush upon. Kenny Omega is returning to New Japan. Hopefully
Omega.
January 5th, Wrestle Dynasty. Things are heating up with him and Gabe Kidd. He was on he did an interview on Fightful, and he was shooting on Gabe Kidd. So he's I never wanted this to be a story and all this stuff. Obviously he's playing it up. It's a story. He's gonna face Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, they had a whole backstage.
But that was a really fun interview to watch, so I highly recommend going to watch that. So I am really excited to see Kenny back in the ring. That's going to be epic. Also, Toni Storm. Let's talk about her.
Let's talk about her and Kenny, as her specifically, though, because
Toni Storm has obviously been off AEW for a bit, but she went and wrestled in CMLL, Stardom, New Japan. She did an interview, and she's I'm not used to losing. I've been everywhere, and I've lost everywhere. Usually I'm the winner. And she's you know what? I think I'm all done with wrestling. I'm going to back out. And she ended the interview by saying, chin down, tits in, and don't bother watching for the shoe. Presumably, this is a work.
It's a work. Yeah,
and
it's got to be a work. Was this
she's going to appear at Full Gear during the championship celebration.
That's what I'm saying. AEW has a tendency to do press like this right before something happens that affects that person, i.e. Swerve's house burning down. She's not retiring. If anything, it's a Swerve and she shows up at Full Gear. But I'm almost going to bank on... we were talking, and you were last episode, you were like, is she going to still be Timeless Tony? And I said, yes, I think so. After this, I don't think so. Yeah. I think maybe it's the end of Timeless Tony Storm, and it's just she's retiring that gimmick, which I think is a tragedy. I love Timeless Tony Storm. She's barely been in that whole gimmick for a year. Maybe just on a year, actually.
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude. No, it's... I think it's going to be our OG Tony Storm coming back in the Pack tracksuit.
I love the Pack tracksuit. Listen, those tracksuits made me an asshole, but we had
a
some
rich
fashion.
asshole, though.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, youtube.com/@Galir Championship Wrestling if you don't know what we're talking about. No, I think she'll come back as OG, like, punk rock Tony Storm.
I think that's about it for news.
Yeah.
You want to hop into some of the weekly stuff here?
One thing I actually do want to build off of that real quick is, like, her and... it was her, Kenny, and someone else.
Oh, Eddie
saying
Kingston.
Eddie Kingston. They're all like, I know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to put more focus on the new guys, the new baby faces that they want to push.
Yeah.
But all three of them have been like, AEW doesn't need me.
Yeah, they said, oh, it's just fine without me.
And, like, sure, while that might be true with the direction it's going in, I don't really think it does you any good to have, like, arguably, well, obviously Kenny, and Tony Storm, and yeah, they're all huge stars.
Yeah, they are.
Arguably, some of your biggest stars in your company saying that just, like, rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, it feels like they're almost, like, forced to say it in a way.
Well, yeah, it definitely feels they're probably like, say this so that it makes them feel like they are really, really trying to push this new generation of stars to feel more important. But I don't necessarily think, I would say that is okay to do if they were like retiring.
Yeah.
But Eddie's injured, Tony's on hiatus, Kenny's coming back from an injury, so they're not retiring wrestling.
Right.
I'd say if it were like a passing of the torch thing, like a John Cena type deal, you know, but that's not the case here. In fact, I would really love to see Eddie come back and be one of the like flag bearers for, you know, taking back AEW kind of thing.
Yeah.
This time last year, he was a triple champion. You know?
It's insane.
I know. I just miss him. I miss him so much, dude.
I do too.
So, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do like the direction AEW is heading in.